Since taking office, Donald Trump and other Republicans across the country have been working to rig the system, weaken voting rights, and lock in political power through redistricting in states that they select. Maryland can't afford to be caught flat-footed while other states reshape the political landscape and try to make this pain permanent. Pass the amendment with a strong yes in November.
There's your villain, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. Now, there's only one Republican congressman from Maryland, and they're trying to eliminate that district. Fortunately, the House Freedom Caucus in Maryland stood up and fought back. They filed a lawsuit. We had Brian Chisholm, one of the state lawmakers in the House Freedom Caucus in Maryland, join us and explain that rationale.
And they added an amendment in that said, notwithstanding, which basically says anything we've passed before, even though it was just 2 months ago that we passed this bill and the governor signed it into law, we get to negate that, and we don't have to live up to any of the standards we put in. We don't have to show it to the public 90 days before an election, which would have been July 1st. And we don't have to explain clearly what's going to be on the amendment. It's been a disaster, but we're pretty confident that what we've presented will hold up to constitutional muster, and this too will be thrown out, just like back in 2022, the map that they changed was thrown out.
We have breaking news tonight. Governor Wes Moore's plan has been foiled by the very lawsuit filed by House Freedom Caucus members. Courts have granted relief, showcasing that they didn't exactly do what they were supposed to do in achieving a reapportionment outside of a census year. Joining us now is a Republican delegate in the Maryland legislature, Lauren Arikan. Delegate Arikan, thanks so much for being here. It looks like you got a big win in the Maryland courts. Walk us through what it means.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt. Yeah, I mean, the Maryland Freedom Caucus with our friends and partners over at the Oversight Project and a few of the Senate Republicans had a huge win this week when the Maryland courts decided that the Democrats had violated their own laws, one they passed just recently this session, in trying to force through a constitutional amendment that would essentially allow for mid-cycle redistricting with the ultimate goal of removing Congressman Andy Harris from his seat.
Do you think this ends the fight, or will they be back to try to eliminate the only Republican congressman in the Maryland delegation?
Well, we do have a movement towards the Supreme Court of Maryland. So on September the 3rd, we will be back in court. But it seems like the Maryland Democrats think that the laws that they pass are like gender fluidity. They can just make it up as they go. But the Maryland courts have already told them, sorry, guys, that's not how it works here.
Does this put a lot of egg on your governor's face? He was trying to be like an East Coast Gavin Newsom with this play. Does it demonstrate just like a lack of technical proficiency and competence on the part of Wes Moore?
I think you nailed it. I mean, this is one of the things I say all the time on the House floor. It's like the JV league. I mean, Wes Moore has passed an unconstitutional digital tax. He's passed unconstitutional gun laws. He's got laws that are enjoined with some frequency. He really is the JV team. And, you know, all of your viewers should know he has his eyes on the White House. So here in Maryland, the Maryland Freedom Caucus has literally been preparing since January to tear this thing down because he's going to try to take over the White House one day. And I think the DCCC would love to see him there, but he's an empty suit and he's an embarrassment. So we should just stop him right here and don't let him ruin the country the way he's ruined our state.
He really has, and one of those areas is crime. What are some of the soft on crime policies that you've been concerned about as Maryland has taken this turn for the worse?
Juvenile crime is out of control in Maryland. I mean, essentially, you get a slap on the wrist in Maryland. We've got juveniles repeatedly stealing cars, sometimes dozens of cars, and with really no penalties whatsoever. It's really become such a problem that even some Democrats behind the scenes are uncomfortable with how bad juvenile crime has gotten under Wes Moore. It's possible that we could see some shifts towards real punishment for some of these kids because they're predating our communities at this point, and he doesn't seem to care at all.
One thing that I was heartened by was that you got a fair hearing in the Maryland courts. So often in California, other blue states, even the jurists are part of the political class and working against the law itself. Can we take some comfort in the fact that your courts seem to have gotten it right on the redistricting question? Absolutely. I think, judges should be essentially assessed by the public on how
how fair they're willing to be. And sometimes we pull a judge who's a radical, who's an extremist, but I think we got a very fair judge this time. He listened to the arguments and he said, guys, absolutely not. I mean, his opinion was so clear cut that this had violated not just, our Constitution, but a bill that they had literally passed, SB 29, just earlier in the year to explain how constitutional amendments are supposed to go, including deadlines, which the Democrats completely ignored. So the judge called them out on it. We feel strongly that we should see success at the Supreme Court level here in Maryland on this issue, and the people of Maryland should be safe from this terrible, terrible bill.
Well, it is such a great example of what happens when you fight. You're in the minority in the Maryland legislature. As members of the Freedom Caucus, you face strong headwinds, and yet you threw your marker down. You made these people sharpen their pencils. You showed that they didn't dot their I's and cross their T's. You got a victory in court. And if we have a Republican majority by one seat, we have the Maryland Freedom Caucus and the great attorneys at the Oversight Project to thank for it. So thank you, Delegate Lauren Arikan, and we hope to have you back on the program sometime soon.
Thanks so much, Matt. You have a good one.